This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Sophia Yvette.
Welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast. Are you in need of a licensed clinical social worker? Well, one may be closer than you'd think. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing your good neighbor, Deb Dunman with Healing in Color Collective. Deb, how are you today?
Hi, Sophia. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I am doing well also. Now, we are excited to learn all about you and your business. Can you start off by telling our listeners just a little bit about your company?
Of course. So my name is Deb. I'm the owner of Healing in Color Collective. It is an outpatient therapy practice, and I work with individuals ages 16 to 60. I specialize in trauma-informed, neurodivergent affirming, and LGBTQIA affirming care.
Amazing. And how did you originally get into this business?
Yeah, so actually, I've always really loved helping people. I've been very interested in learning how people work, how their brains work, and I knew I wanted to do therapy. And originally, I was doing a lot of dual diagnosis work, so working with people with substance use disorders and mental health disorders. And later on in life, I ended up getting diagnosed with ADHD. A lot of women, if they ever get diagnosed, are diagnosed later in life. And I started learning a lot personally about what was going on with my brain and then applying some strategies to my life and seeing really great results. And I started to notice that some of the people I was working with in my job were also dealing with similar things. And I started bringing some of those strategies to my work, and things started happening that were really exciting. People started having improvement in their self-esteem and their relationships and how they were functioning at work and at home. And so I pivoted. I'm still doing therapy, but I now specialize in working with people who don't really fit into boxes neatly.
Well, and I think at some points in our lives, all of us in one way or another feel we don't fit into a box. Now, what is the most common myth or misconception in your industry, especially when it comes to the trauma side of things?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest myths in therapy is that something is wrong with you, and that's why you need to go to therapy. You go to therapy to become fixed. And therapy is not about fixing, it's about developing a relationship with yourself that feels good. And the relationship that you develop with yourself is foundational to having good relationships in other areas of your life. And a lot of times, trauma starts, and you might not even realize that something you experienced was a type of trauma, but it really impacts how we think about ourselves. And so therapy allows us to do that work of building that healthy relationship with ourselves again. And then that impacts us in a lot of great ways, even outside of our, relationship with ourselves.
Now, who are the best candidates for therapy in your opinion? Because I always hear you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink. What does that mean from your point of view?
Yeah, I think the best candidates for therapy, especially working with me, are people who are curious, who have been maybe trying to do things to make their life better and feeling like they're hitting a wall. And they're curious about like what else could be out there, and curious about, okay, if I did make some changes, what would my life look like? And maybe even curious about who they are as people. And if they're able to bring that curiosity to therapy, then transformation is ahead.
Now, we know marketing is the heart of every business. Who are your target clients and audience? And in terms of marketing, how are you currently attracting them?
Yeah, so I would say my target client is someone who has maybe been to therapy before. They've been presented with some tools and strategies, and they're like, I know what to do, but something is still not working for them. I help with digging behind under like the symptoms into like the why and the story of what's going on, not just like the symptoms that are coming up externally. So people typically come to me when they're like, I already know, like I know all the answers, and yet I still feel this way. And I help them dig into that. And then what I've been doing for marketing, a lot of meeting people locally, trying to attend local events, and I'm also on some directories online as well, but trying to get the word out in like local places.
What do you feel has been your biggest challenge when it comes to getting the word out about your business?
Honestly, I think the biggest challenge is there are really big telehealth companies right now that have great marketing budgets. And my expertise is in therapy. It's not in marketing. So I have really enjoyed learning more about that aspect of being a business owner. Now I'm also like the business development, representative for my business, but it's a learning curve for me because what I went to school for was the therapy side of things.
Have you ever thought of having your own podcast before?
Yes, I have. I don't know that it would be about therapy though. I think it would be about something that is a little bit educational and a little bit unhinged.
Interesting take on things. Now, let me ask you this. Why is it so important to know the why behind what your clients are feeling?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times people come and they're like, well, I know like that maybe I want to change something, or I know that this relationship doesn't work for me, but yet I find myself doing the same behavior over and over and over again. If you can dig underneath the behavior to find the why, usually there's a good intention or a good like strategy that worked at one point for someone, but it's no longer working. And understanding that can allow the person to start to explore other strategies that could work better. But without that like deeper knowledge, it's just easy to continue doing what we know worked at one point for us.
I think that is so true. Now, Deb, what is one thing you would like our listeners to take away from learning today about Healing in Color Collective?
Yeah, I really want people to know that our society and a lot of our treatment models are created for people with the assumption that they fit into a very neat black and white box. And what I do is I help people who feel like maybe they aren't fitting in that box. I provide affirming care that is for people who have a brain that works differently and who have experiences that maybe don't match the cookie cutter, life experience. And I offer tools that are specifically designed for someone who doesn't fit into a box.
Interesting. And Deb, what our listeners really want to know today is where can they go to learn more about Healing in Color Collective?
Yeah, so I am able to provide telehealth services all over Texas. And then I also have an office space in Dallas at Revolve Wellness Collective. And you can find me online at healingincolorcollective.com, on Instagram at healingincolorcollective. You can email me, deb.dunman@healingincolorcollective.com, or you can text me.
Well, Deb, I really appreciate you being on the show today. We wish you and your business the best moving forward.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpfrisco.com. That's gnpfrisco.com. Or call 469-221-9345.